let's spend some time then looking at this website, which is the website of Mendip Outdoor Pursuits, and the address is www.mendip.co.uk. I'm just going to take you through a search that I think it might be useful to adopt and try for yourselves, finding out various bits of information. This video accompanies the template as well for Mendip Outdoor Pursuits. So the first point there is, where is the business located and what's the population of the town or city that it's nearest? And I think that's really important for us to be aware of where that business is, regardless of what type of business you're actually researching. So in this case, how are we going to find that out? Well, I think before we actually start looking at all of those questions and the data, it's useful to get an understanding of the layout or the architecture of the website. So you need to look at the tabs along the top to give you an indication of what sorts of things the organisation is about and what it offers. You can see there's all sorts here. So obviously we've got about, family days, birthdays, family camping, etc. You can read those. The other thing to find out relatively quickly about the business is to look at the About tab or the About section. Almost all websites have an About Us or About, so I think that would be a good point to start off. Now you can see that it says directions there, which tells us how to get to the particular location. But I think probably better to start with is to go to the About to see what we can find out there. So let's do that just now. So let's click on About. And then we need to just very quickly skim through. We're looking out for, in this case, where the business is located. And I've already looked through this. I know it's not in this particular area, but if we look down here, you can see here that it says we're situated in the heart of the Mendip area, and it tells us where we are and that we're close to Bristol and a short drive from the M5. So that's exactly what we need to know. And because it mentions Bristol, then I think it's useful for us to find out what the population of Bristol might be, because potentially it is serving the whole of Bristol, or certainly its demographic in Bristol. So first one, then go to About and look at About Mendip for as much information about this as you can. And when you skim through this, you'll also find out some more things. So our story here talks about the employers and a little bit of how the business is structured, and then opening times, which you'll certainly need to know about at some point. And just while we're on this, I think it's always a good idea to scroll right down to the bottom of the page of the website, because at the bottom you'll have the footer. So this grey bit here is the footer. It's not always grey, of course, but this is where you might have more information about the business. And certainly you can see here its social media presence and how it markets itself. That's going to become useful for you a little bit later on. And another quick tip is on the right hand side down here, we've got some privacy statements, accessibility statements, etc. And those things are links to those important documents which will help us also to find relevant information. So what I would do, I'm actually not going to do it in the video, but what I would do now is go into another tab and see if I can find out what the population of Bristol is, because then I can make a note of that. In fact, I did it, and it's over 700,000 people. It's quite a large city. And so we get an idea of what the potential demographic and catchment area is for this business. So let's move on to the next question, which asks, what type of business is it? Is it a private, sole trader, partnership, etc.? Now, the way that I found this is by going right down to the bottom of the page on the first page, and I clicked on the privacy page here. It's always good to go and explore that. And the privacy page is basically about how the business holds your data. And what they do with it. And so you can see here personal data, how we collect it using the website, etc. But if you look relatively closely, and that's why you have a certain amount of time to do this, you will see that in this case it says Mendip Outdoor Pursuits Limited, which means that this is a limited company, and it also says it's privately owned. So that tells us it's a privately owned business, and it's a PLC, it's a private limited company. So that's really useful for us, and you can see it's registered under company number there, so we know that that is a private limited company. So the privacy page, really useful. You might want to spend a little bit of time scanning through that as well to see if there's any other information that might be relevant to you. At least knowing where it is really important. Next question says, what's the size of the business? How many people does it employ? Is it micro, small, medium, or large? Well, I think, to be fair to you and save you some time, it's actually quite tricky to find that information out. If we look at job opportunities, you can see that there are a number of different jobs available, and these are either full-time, fully employed, they're full-time 6-month contract, or we're looking for freelance instructors. So you can see that they're employing people who are self-employed, obviously chefs, casual catering and bar staff, marketing team member, etc. So there's a reasonable amount, and actually what we've also discovered is if you go on to somewhere like LinkedIn, and you'll be able to find from LinkedIn how many people are employed, and from there you will know what size of the business it is. And lastly on this one, again, just going back to the about the home page, the next question says, what is the scope of the business? Is it local, national, international, multinational? If you look across the top, you can see all sorts of things, so family days out, family camping, education, etc. I went and had a look at the adult groups pages and looked through these and established that people come from lots of different places in the country. And I also think it's useful to be aware of, you can see the businesses that it serves, and scrolling down you can see not only the different activities that it serves, but also, if we get down to the bottom, so we can see that it comes from a lot of different places, these businesses here, and so therefore we can establish that this is a national scope, or this business has a national scope.